Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Got a couple minutes here, so we'll wait for people to show up. The training lasts about an hour and a half. We do record the training, so if you can't stay for the whole time, that's fine. You can always come back later and catch the rest of it. Feel free to use or make use of YouTube's chat feature, ask questions about a particular feature as I go over it, and I'll try to address it as soon as I see that question. We are here every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Some of the features I'll have to refer to other videos on our YouTube channel, and I'll try to call those out as we get to them. But let's go ahead and get started. Here we have our Dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get there from the virtualpbx.com website. There's a blue bar going across the top of the page. There should be a login link there. I do recommend bookmarking this page, especially if you're an admin or if you're going to be a user in an ACD queue, a call queue. To log in, we need 3 pieces of information. The first is your email address, the second, your password, and the third is the account name or the company name, typically. Now, if for some reason you don't remember this or the email wasn't sent to you, down here at the bottom, just above the sign-in bar, click on the Forgot Your Info link. This will flip it over. We still need your email address. That's the one thing we always need. Oh, make sure your email address isn't all lowercase letters. I know some browsers sometimes capitalize the first letter. And then in these bottom 2, we need one of these 2. We don't need both. So either the account name or a phone number that's on the account. Right? That's a customer-facing phone number. Click on the blue bar here to reset your password. You'll get an email that's going to have a link to let you log in. That link only allows you to change your password and then logs you back out. So you then enter that new password here. Then you have the opportunity here to click on the Remember Me box. And we'll click on Sign In. Now I am using a test account that I have logged into several times. So by default, the system is going to take me right here to the dashboard page. Right? It gives me a quick snapshot of what's going on with my system. If it's your first time logging in, the system actually takes you to your user account page. Now, you can always get to that user account name page, by clicking on your name towards the top right of the page, top right corner. So here, again, here's where you would change your password, right? So if you want to change your own password, just click on your name at the top right, and then click on password to change your password. As an admin, I can also get to the account level settings. The major thing that's changed is the time zone or possibly the display language. If you need to change your account name, you actually would need to contact our billing team. That's billing@virtualpbx.com. That way they can make sure everything is linked appropriately. Also, this first time logging in, the Dash Wizard pop-ups will come up telling you what certain things are. When you're done with that, over here towards the top right corner, click on the close button and you'll be taken here back to the dashboard. The Dash Wizard, again, on that first login will pop up telling you what certain things are. Over here on the left, these navigation bars, these are the core features of the dashboard. So we'll be going through basically all of these. Now up here at the top, again, your name, click on that to change your password. For many of you, to the right of your name, you'll have a D&D toggle for Do Not Disturb. Right? You can click on that and basically you won't receive calls. Now, I don't have it here because my user is part of a call center, right? One of the queues. Those 2 features don't work well together, so that's why it was removed. Oh, okay. So these little icons will show up. This one here, the web phone, this only shows up after you've added a web phone to your user. And what it does is it opens up a new tab, taking you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It will ask you to log in using your Dash login information, and it allows you to use Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls, assuming you have an internet connection. Then we've got the graduation cap icon here. This will open up a new tab and take you to our support pages, right, where you can find various guides with screenshots and, in some cases, videos. Little chat bubble will open up the chat window to speak to our support staff so they can help you with any feature or configuration that you're working with. Oh, and that chat bubble you can pop out of the existing window, so you can have it in a separate window. The 3 horizontal line icon here is the menu icon. This takes you to other dash features, right? So for most of the training, we'll be in the dashboard. We'll touch on these others towards the end. And then lastly, you have the logout icon. Here in the middle, total users, I have 23 users. These are people who make and receive calls on my account. Most of our plans are based on a per user basis, so the more users you have, the higher your bill. Total devices, I have 49 different devices. And then a little breakdown here. First up is soft phone. And what that means is a software application. So on a computer, tablet, cell phone, right, that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. So software, phone, soft phone. This includes the VirtualPBX soft phone app, as well as any third-party soft phones you might be using. Then we have cell phones, right? Just a standard cell phone number. Web phone, again, using that Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls. And then we have the SIP phone. SIP phone is a piece of hardware, right? So it's a physical device, sits on someone's desk, most likely. It typically connects via an Ethernet cable from that phone to your router or switch, depending on your network layout. And then uses your internet connection to make and receive calls. There are other kinds of VoIP phones on the market, right? So SIP is just a subtype in that we make use of. So when you're shopping, that's what you want to look for, is a SIP compliant phone or compatible. Unregistered devices, this is in relation to the SIP phones. It's saying 3 of them are unregistered. That just means they're not connected, right? That could be they're not simply plugged in right now. That could be there's an internet outage at their particular location. Most likely, probably the not plugged in or not set up, possibly a network issue. Total numbers, I have 41 phone numbers on this account. That's actually quite a few. Your plan will typically include at least some number of phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. And when you go over that, it's an overage per number. So like if you just signed up with us today, for example, I believe it's $1.99 per phone number per month. If you have an older plan, you'd want to talk to our account services team, and they can verify how many numbers you get and what that overage would be if you're over. We have 2 breakdowns here. First is assigned numbers and spare numbers. An assigned number means you're using it, right? Someone can dial that number, an assigned number, and speak to someone or leave a voicemail, join a conference, or send a fax. Spare number counts towards your allotment. You're just not currently using it. Maybe you're about to open a new location and you don't want calls going to that location yet, but you wanted the number so you can start producing your marketing materials, right? Or you had a promotion that just ended. And you're like, okay, let's take that number out of service and not take calls about a promotion that's no longer in effect. Next up, we have US DID versus US toll-free. US toll-free is US Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888 all the way down to 833. USDID, that just means a US local phone number, right? So a number in Miami, Florida counts as USDID, just as if you had one in Chicago, Illinois. You can't have international phone numbers on your account if you'd like to. You'd want to email our porting team, and that's porting at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. They'll let you know if that's possible, and then what, if any, other additional requirements are needed. And that's determined by the country, not by us. Next up, I have conference bridges, and I have 6 conference bridges. And that just means I have enabled the conference feature on 6 of my staff members. Over here to the top right, I have my main number block, and I have 5 numbers in here. So these 5 phone numbers, they all behave in the same fashion, right? So they're all going to the same location. They're all going to have the same main greeting. Down below that, I have my conference room number. You can have multiple conference numbers if you want, but they're all going to the same set of conference rooms. But this is the phone number everyone dials to join a conference. So your staff members, your clients, your vendors, they would all join that same or call the same number. The fax box number, you can have the one main fax box number. This is your inbound fax number. So if set up properly, can enable outbound faxing. You can only have the one main fax box number. Next up, we have the company directory, and there's 2 downloads here. One's a CSV, and one says soft phone. Right. So CSV downloads a spreadsheet file that you can use with your favorite spreadsheet program, and basically has the names, extension numbers, and devices for your staff members. The soft phone directory is for use specifically with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone, right? So if you're using our soft phone app on a Windows or Mac PC, you can download this file and then upload it to the VirtualPBX soft phone app on your computer. And this will allow you to see the status of the other soft phones on your account, right? So if everyone's using the VirtualPBX soft phone, you can see who's on a call and who's not, right? If you have staff members with a mix of devices, you're not going to necessarily know, right? So like if my colleague Mike is on his Yealink phone, I'm not going to know that just looking at my soft phone. All right, VirtualPBX Store. This is a link, opens up a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order things like a VoIP phone or a router, etc. And then here we have the account realm. Every account has its own account realm. You use this for a couple things. One, it's used to program a third-party soft phone or device, right? It's one of the 3 pieces of information you would need to get that device to work with us. The other thing it's used for is to send out a fax. So on Dash, you don't have to log into your Dash account to send a fax out. You just need to use an email that's associated with your user, assuming that your fax box is set up to send out faxes. You create a new email like you normally would. In the to field, right, so who you're sending it to, you put the plus sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, the @ symbol, and then your account realm. Then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF file and click send. Right? The system is not going to look at the subject line. It's not going to look at the body of the email. Right? It looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. You can only send out 1 attachment at a time. You want to keep that file under 7 megabytes, and that will still take a long time to get faxed. All right, up here, we have caller ID. When I click on this, it'll expand out, and it says here, company caller ID. So unfortunately, this pull down doesn't work, but you can select any of your main numbers here. And whichever one you select becomes your default number for, say, like your VoIP phone's making an outbound call, among some other features. You do need to have some sort of caller ID set up for your VoIP phones to make outbound calls successfully. So either on the user directly or here for the company level. This field here, company caller ID name or CNAME, this is an optional field. You can, in this box here to the right, you can enter up to 15 characters. That includes spaces or special characters. And then we associate these words with your phone number when you make an outbound call. Down here, you have the company emergency information, or E911. Just wants a North American address. And then you click on Save Changes. Now, if you entered data up here for the company caller ID name, after you click on Save Changes, that information gets transmitted to the other carriers who support this feature. It takes them about 3 business days to update their databases. So again, basically once you click on Save Changes, when you make an outbound call, that name information probably won't populate when you make that outbound call to whoever you're calling. CNAME, there are some things to be aware of. Right, so when you make an outbound call, your call can route through several different carriers before it gets to the destination. Any one of those carriers who doesn't support CNAME, the CNAME information doesn't make it to the destination. Even then, at the destination, that network or that carrier, they can decide to pass that information on, right, to the phones on their network. They can decide, say, wait, no, we'll pass the number in, but we're going to look up our own database and put that information to the phones on our network, or simply just not send in the name. They just send the number through, right? That's not something VirtualPBX can control. And that's especially true when you're calling cell phones. The cell phone providers, generally speaking, they want to charge their subscribers an additional monthly fee in order for them to have that ability to have the company name show up on calls to their cell phone. Hold music. This allows you to set up hold music for your users. So hold music defined on the system as when a call has come in and reached a user, and the user has pressed hold on their VoIP phone. That's when the hold music file will play. You can upload your own files, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono, and under 1 megabyte. You can upload stereo files, but they're larger, and with that 1 megabyte file size, having mono gives you some more space to work with. A 1 megabyte MP3 is approximately 5 minutes. But then you would click on Browse to find it on your device, click the little up arrow icon, and then click on Save Changes. Now, hours is part of main number, so I'm just going to click on main number. And we'll let that load. So at the top, we got main company numbers. So here you see my main numbers down here, and I'll highlight them both. This is where you would add new numbers to this area, right? So if I want to add more numbers to my main numbers, I can either add from my spare numbers. So these are numbers that are on my account. I'm currently not using them. Now, this could be because someone left the company, so I took a number from their user, right? I've removed their user, and so it became a spare number, or what have you. But you would just click on the box in front of the number, and then click on Add Selected. And now I'm just reusing that phone number, right? Or I can click on Buy Numbers. This is where you add new numbers to your account. You have local or toll-free. Toll-free, you choose toll-free prefix. Click on Search. It's going to give you a list of phone numbers at some point. And you can keep scrolling down to get more numbers. Any number you like, you just click Add next to it. You can add multiple if you want to, right? This shows up here on the right. When you're done, click on Buy Numbers. Now, you want to complete that process all the way through. You don't want to just add it into your cart and then walk away, because this list is dynamic, right? Adding it to your cart doesn't do anything. So if you don't complete the process, someone else could come in, buy the number, hit Buy Numbers all the way through, and get that number that you initially wanted. All right, local, similar, but you need to know the area code that you want to work with, right? Like you can't type in New York City, right? You need to actually know the area code in question. Any area code, including the toll-free ones, right? You can get this message, and it's just saying there's no readily available numbers in this area code. In this case, I would recommend doing a search on whatever search engine you like, and I would do a search for area code 310 overlay, and that would tell me that 424 is the overlay for 310. And you see here I have additional numbers to work with. And I can, again, click Add By Numbers, right? Then it adds it to my account. Now, if you come across a region that has no numbers, right? There's like multiple area codes, you tried them all, there's nothing available, you can email our porting team and they can double check, and they can also do what's called a back order, which basically means, hey, we put it out there that, hey, we want a number in this area code if it becomes available. We cannot tell you when that's going to happen, right? We have to wait for someone to give up their number before we have a chance to get it. Now, anywhere you have a phone number, when you expand it out, you'll have this little gear icon. So here's where you can update the individual caller ID information, right? So the outbound CNAM information, and turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM. E911, each phone number can have its own E911 address. Right? This allows you to assign a particular phone number to your VoIP devices. So that way, if you have remote staff, that you can have, for E911 purposes, the correct address associated with your staff members. So if they happen to pick up their VoIP phone and dial 911, the correct address gets transmitted to emergency services. Right? You wouldn't want your employees in San Jose dialing 911 and have an address from Chicago show up, right? That's not going to help. Prepend is a VoIP phone feature. This allows you to put text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones, and give them an idea what the call is about. And we'll hit cancel. And I'm going to remove these extra numbers here for right now. All right. Next up, office hour strategy. You have two options to start with: 24-hour open office, right? You're open 24/7, or custom office hours. If you choose custom office hours for each day of the week that you're open, put a check mark in front of that day. And then in these boxes here to the right, select your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Down here towards the bottom, you have a checkbox here to say, hey, you're closed for lunch, right? That would put your system in lunch mode automatically every day that you're open. And then you set your lunch hours in 24-hour or military time. And then click on Save Changes. And then we have office holidays. So if you're closed for holidays, click on the check mark here. Then over here to the right, you have Add Holiday. Oops. And then you have that option here for single day, date range, or advanced. Each one of those creates a new row, right? So you give the holiday a name. You choose the month and the date. Click on Save Changes, right? That's for single day. Date range, like I have here for Christmas holiday. Give it a name, start date, end date, and then Save Changes. Advanced, like I have here for Thanksgiving, right? So I gave it a name, choose the month, and then in the second pull down, it's 1st through 5th, as well as last, and then the day of the week. There is no year indicator, so for date ranges, as a precaution, we recommend against having a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So that's something to be aware of. If you need to remove a holiday, click on the trash can icon, and then click on Save Changes. All right, incoming call handling. So for my main numbers, right, I have 5 up there. How do I want the system to handle calls going during my open hours, during my after hours, and during my holidays? Right. Now, these first 3 options are always going to be here. This 4th one only shows up under a couple of circumstances. So here we have calls come in, they're going to my virtual receptionist. If I click on virtual receptionist, it's going to open up a new box, get a little warning message about my greeting. But here on the left is your main menu, right? So this is where you give your incoming callers menu options, right? To what they can press on their phone to navigate through your phone system. You click on Add Route to give yourself a new row. This pull down starts you off with default action. But you have the options between 0 through 9, as well as the star key. And then the second pull down is where do you want that menu option to go? So here, big list, right? It's going to your directory, your any user, right? So a specific person. Call queues if you're making use of queues. Queues are an upgrade feature, so you may need to talk to our account services team. Groups, these are basic departments. These are an included feature. Queues are actually an upgrade over groups. Devices, so you can have a menu option go to a specific phone. And scroll down, you can go to a specific voicemail box, right? So like press 0 to leave a message. And you also have the option for a media file. Once the media file stops playing, the call ends. Now, obviously, you need to have these other things created first before they're available here on the menu. So after we get through this and auto attendance, we'll go into how to create the destinations. Over here on the right, your greeting options. So you have text-to-speech, where you can type in a greeting, and a computerized or / robotic voice will read it back to your inbound callers. This is restricted to 250 characters. not words, characters. It does not count spaces. I have gotten larger greetings to work on occasion, but 250 works consistently. So something to be aware of. Also, notice that the system doesn't allow you to name the file, right? So it's going to name it for you. And in this case, it's going to be our main open hours menu and then TTS for text to speech, right? So if I type something in here, I click update, save, and save changes. I listen to it and it's not right, or I forgot a menu option, right? And I edit what's existing here. I'll have two files that say main open hours menu TTS. My recommendation is if you're making use of text-to-speech greetings, after you create it, on the left-hand side, you're going to want to click on the greetings tab and find that file and rename it to something that you can recognize. You can upload your own file, right? Click choose file, find the file on your computer, .wave.mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Click update, save, and save changes. You can choose from an existing recording. Right? This is why you would want to change that main open hours menu TTS file to something different, because in a pull down, you're not going to be able to recognize one from the other. But choose the file, you would click update, save, and save changes. You have the option to record it over the phone. So if you just signed up with us and you called your main number right off the bat, you would hear that hear a message saying the menu or the greeting for this menu has not been created yet. It will then prompt you to record for the PIN number. Now, by default, the system wants you to use a phone registered on this account. That means a VoIP phone. If you don't have a VoIP phone yet, or you just don't care, you have a friend who has that great radio voice and you want them to call in on their own. So under settings, and you want to click here where it says allow outside recording, you want to turn that on. And that turns on the ability for any phone number to call into your system, right? Cell phone, landline, what have you, and they can change the main greeting. Now, they still need to know your PIN number, which is right here. This PIN number is specific to this time of day, meaning my open hours, right? So it only works during my open hours, right? So if I call after 5 p.m., this PIN number will no longer work. Now, we recommend that after you have that recording done, turn this back to off so that way people can't randomly, try to find out a PIN number or stumble on it by accident and then change your main greeting on you. When you record over the phone, the system names the file for you. Usually it's like your account number / recording or dash recording. Now, if you have a greeting file in place, so let's say you started off with text-to-speech and you had feedback from customers that it was off-putting. You can still call in and enter in your PIN number when you hear that main greeting. The system will walk you through recording the greeting over the phone. It's going to replace the existing recording with what you have or what you say, right? So the file name, so let's say you have main open hours menu TTS, right? That stays. But instead of having that computerized robotic voice playing, it's going to have your voice. You have the option here for professional recording services. When you click order, this will open up a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings, where you can have a greeting ordered. They have many voice actors and actresses to choose from. They bill you directly, typically via credit card, and then they send you an email with the file. So then you would just simply go up to upload your own file. All right. Settings. First one here, number of retries on missed dial. This is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. Basically, you want to put like 1 or 2 or 3 or however many you want to put in. They automatically get 1 try, right? This is the number of additional tries on top of that first one. Dialing timeout, this is how much time the system listens for a second button press or additional button press after the first one. Right? In this case, right now, it's 10. I usually recommend like anywhere between 2 and 5. So, as an example, a caller calls in, they hear my greeting, and they press 7. Now, the system is going to wait for 5 seconds, seeing if this person is going to enter an additional digit after the initial 7, seeing they're going to enter an extension number. When that elapses and they haven't pressed anything, then the system goes, oh, that's not a valid entry message or not a valid option. It's going to then replay the greeting, right? Because I have one retry. They press 7 a second time. The system waits 5 seconds, says, oh, that's not a valid entry. It's going to play a message on that last attempt saying, we did not recognize your entries, and then either send the caller to the default action, right? In this case, my PBX directory, or I click the remove here. If I don't have a default action, then it will say, oh, so we did not recognize your entry, goodbye, and end the call. Now, the reason you would not want a default action is to cut down on the impact of robodialers. And we already covered allow outside recording. So next up is dialing extensions. By default, this is on, and this just means if someone calls in and enters a valid extension number, the system will transfer the call. Right? If I turn that off, that means the inbound caller can only press 0, 1, or 2. Anything else is an invalid entry. And then here, suppress the playing of invalid entry. So if I don't want the system to play that message, right, we did not recognize your entry, goodbye, or transferring your call, then I would turn this on, and that would stop that message from playing. So any changes you make to your main menu, your set greetings, or your settings, you need to click Save here. It's going to take you back to your incoming call handling. You need to click Save Changes here, right? So you're clicking Save twice. All right, after hours, if we click here, you'll see it's a different menu. In fact, there's no menu options selected. And then we can hit save, right? But here, I'll have it go to the second option here. So this pull down, normally it's designed to go to a user or a group or a queue. It's the idea here is that you're giving people a chance to answer the call first, and then you're sending it to the virtual receptionist. Right? So my front desk group, I have 4 or 5 people in there. Calls get offered to them first, right? So hopefully they can answer it and then transfer the caller to whoever they need to go or handle the call. If they're not able to pick up or they're all busy, right, then the caller goes to the virtual receptionist, so then they can hit a menu option to go where they want to speak to. Third option here, you can, again, choose to have it go to a user, a group, a queue. You can have it ring to a specific device. You can also have it go to a media file. Right, so you can say, have this message play, and then you choose which voicemail box you go to. Now, the other thing you can do at the very, very bottom is just skip the voicemail, right? Just calls. So on my holidays, right, calls are just being sent to this particular voicemail box so they can leave a message. This fourth option, this will only show up on accounts that have multiple auto attendants and they've made one or more of those attendants available in main menu, or if our services team has created a custom call flow for you, right? Some sort of a custom configuration. Main conference room numbers. Again, you can add from spare or by new, so you have multiple conference room numbers if you want. You can unassign if you don't like this conference room number. You also have the option here to create your own greeting. However, it's only a text-to-speech greeting. Even if I left this disabled, when you call the conference room number, it still says welcome to the conference, and then prompts you to enter the conference room number and then the PIN number. The main fax box number, you can only have the one, right? That's why there's no option to add more. Here you have the option to edit the fax box. So first up, you have the inbound fax notification. You enter an email address here, and whenever an inbound fax comes in, this email address gets sent an email. It's got the date, the time, phone numbers involved, and then a PDF attachment of the fax. One thing to be aware of, that if someone dials your fax number, so let's say from their cell phone, right? They hear the fax tones and then they hang up. This email address still gets an email saying that there was a failed inbound fax attempt. All right. the email permissions here, this is designed to put your company email domain. Right, so in this case, we have VirtualPBX, which means anyone at VirtualPBX can send a fax out on this account, even if they're not a user on the account. Right, they just need that proper format, that +1 area code and phone number, and then the account realm, which is right here, and then a PDF and TIFF or TIFF file to be sent out. Right, auto attendance, this is a plan-specific feature, right? It means it's on some plans and not others. It allows you to create a secondary attendance. The two major use cases we come across for attendance is one is for submenuing, right? Classic example, like one for English, two for Spanish. You would create an English and Spanish attendant here. You'd have a greeting in the appropriate language, and then menu options going to people who speak that language. The other is if you have multiple businesses and you want them on the same account. Right now, those other businesses would have their own phone numbers and their own main greetings. And you would go up here at the top, click on Add Attendant. You have to give it a name and give it an extension number. The extension number is not something your customers would necessarily know, but it's something your staff members could use to transfer calls to the correct business or language or department even. Once you've created an attendant, if you click on the name, so it defaults to being available in unavailable in main menu, excuse me. Right, so it defaults to being a standalone attendant. If you click here, then you can make it available in main menu, meaning it's a submenu option. Right, so for a separate business, you would leave it unavailable. You can always delete an attendant if you don't need it. Otherwise, click on Save Changes. Attendants can have their own phone numbers. They can have multiple phone numbers, right? So you can buy new or add from spare. And you also have the little gear icon here. So you can adjust the E91, caller ID, prepend, etc. You can click on the extension box so you can add multiple extensions to an auto attendant. And here we got the little wrench icon under settings. And you see here I have open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? This is going to match what we have already set up under your main number, right? So your secondary attendants have to have the same hours of operation as your primary. But beyond that, they all go to the virtual receptionist. So you set up menu options, your greetings, etc. And then you would click on Save Changes. All right, I'm going to skip down here to users. So here shows all your users on the account, right? The person with the people with little gray person icon, these are your standard users, right? So they have very limited access. People with the little blue suit icon, these are your system admins, so they can do all the stuff we're talking about. Up here at the top, you click on Add User, and you basically fill out the form, right? So first name, last name. Here, the email address used for login, it needs to be unique for each user, right? So you can't reuse an email address. This is also how the system communicates with the user, right? Like sending voicemail notifications or password reset, that sort of thing. Here, you create the password for the user. And then here is their main extension number. Now, the system will suggest an extension number for you. Now, if you just signed up with us, right, you don't have an extension number on your first user, you're going to want to add an extension number to you. I typically recommend just going with four-digit extensions. This way it gives you maximum scalability and versatility. So like this system started with extension 1000. It's telling me the next available is 1018, but I can always type in a new extension number if I want to. By default, the system will automatically create a voicemail box for the user. Right, that voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. Basically, if you create a user, you add a VoIP phone, they can pick up their VoIP phone, hit *98. That will log them directly into this voicemail box. And then the system will walk them through creating their PIN number for their voicemail box and creating their voicemail box greeting. Here's your option to be in the user directory. You can always change that later. Send emails to an alternate address. So this is if you want those like voicemail notifications, password resets go to a different email address than the one you set up for login, right? It will basically ignore the one that's set up for logging in and send everything to this secondary address, right? You just put it in this box here. Again, you can change that later. And then here is the option to send the credentials to the user, which I usually recommend. If you only need to create one user, you just click on create user. If you have to add multiple, create user and add another, and you just repeat the process. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. Right, so if you need to, you can change their name. Right, someone has a name change. Here, you can change their login credentials. So you can either change their email address or their password. You can also have the system send them the password reset email. All right, here you can change their voicemail box PIN number instead of going to the voicemail boxes tab. Here's your option to send emails to an alternate address. And then here's the option to be in the user directory or not. This pull down over here to the right under the little person icon, that's where you change a user into an admin or an admin to a user. Little clock icon, this allows you to change the time zone, right? So the voicemail timestamps are correct for this user. Ringing timeout, and this user is grayed out, but default is 20 seconds. It's grayed out here on this user because he has a feature called follow me calling enabled, so that supersedes it. 20 seconds, plenty of time to route a call to a VoIP phone or a landline. If Aaron here only had a cell phone on his user, I'd want to increase that to 30 seconds, maybe even longer. It simply takes longer to route a call to a cell phone. Right, they have to find you first. All right, extension number. Again, if you just signed up, you'd want to click here and then click on add an extension number and give yourself an extension number. Users can have multiple extension numbers if you want them to. Phone number box, users can have their own phone number or multiple phone numbers if you want them to, right? You have the option here to add from spare or buy new. Something to keep in mind is when you have a phone number on a user or a group, or basically anywhere that's not the main number or an auto attendant, these phone numbers do not have hours of operation, right? So they're always open. Here you have the device box, and I'm going to go down to here. So here's where you can add devices directly to the user, right? SIP device or SIP phone, right? This is that physical hardware. You can choose a manufacturer. Some have a lot of models, some only a few. But you click on the make and model of the phone you're working with. You give it a name, right? Like I usually say like the person's name and the word phone, right? So Bob's phone, right? Or location, like warehouse phone. Then we need the MAC address. This is unique to each device. Typically a sticker on the back of the phone, or if it's plugged in, typically under like its status or basic settings, there should be an entry there for the MAC, M-A-C. Excuse me. Then you would click on create device. Now, once you've clicked on create device, and I'll click on this one here under Bob. You click on the device here, you go to advanced, you go to miscellaneous, and then here where it says allow reprovision, you click unlock, and then you would click on save changes. Now, as far as our dashboard is concerned, you're done, right? You've already assigned it to a user, you've unlocked it, and you've added it, right, and unlocked it. Now, you need to go into the phone's web user interface. Basically, you're entering in a URL, telling the phone, hey, go here, get your config file. It will do that. It's going to reboot a couple of times and then turn to a green device. For the specifics of that, you want to go to our support pages, right? So click on the little graduation cap icon at the top right, and you're looking for the document called auto provisioning phones. That's going to have screenshots from these various manufacturers, so where to look for. and the proper syntax for that URL. In some cases, there might be some additional settings that they want that the document says to double check. Next up, we have cell phone or landline. And you just need to give it a name and a number. So we'll go here to demo device, right? So we gave it a name, we gave it a number. You want +1 area code and phone number. No spaces, no dashes, no parentheses, just +1 area code and number, right? And then you would click on create device. I'm going to go here to advanced. This is the default setup for a cell phone or landline. So how Dash handles calls to these devices. Call comes into Aaron's user, starts ringing him at his cell phone, right? He picks up, he accepts the call. He'll hear a message saying, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. When he presses 1 on his cell phone, he's telling the system, yes, he's there, and yes, he wants to take the call. Right? The system then connects the call, he begins speaking. That's great if this is actually Aaron's cell phone. If, however, I was actually forwarding calls to an automated answering service to handle my after-hours calls, that automated answering service doesn't know when to press 1, right? Probably doesn't have the ability to. So what I would do is here, where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, I click on the box in front of it. So now when I offer the call to this phone number, right, that automated system picks up, right? We hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. There's nothing about it's a forwarded call, no request to press 1 or need to. It just says, hey, pickup tone, connect. Conversely, if this is actually Aaron's cell phone and I have it checked like this, call comes into his cell phone, he's not able to pick up for whatever reasons, right? His cell phone voicemail picks up. Well, that's still a pickup tone. So that inbound caller ends up on his personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people want that, some people don't. The other thing that comes up is this one here, keep original caller ID. So when call is being offered to, let's say customer Mary is calling into the system, reaches out to Aaron, right? He looks at his phone, he doesn't recognize the phone number. He's like, I've had too many robo-dialers, I'm just gonna let it go to voicemail. Maybe later he's not able to reach out to customer Mary, maybe she's moved on to a competitor. So if I uncheck this, instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number, Aaron would see the main company number. Go back here. Right, so whatever number, this 408 number I selected here, that's what would show up on Aaron's cell phone. So hopefully he would recognize the main number and say, oh, let me answer this call. Oops, wrong thing. All right, next up, I want to cover adding a soft phone directly to a user. So first, please read the warning message. Then next up, when you click close, you're going to get a big box coming up here. Now here, this defaults you to a third-party soft phone, meaning you're using someone else's application. If that's what you're going to do, that's great. Just create a name. You're going to want to copy and paste the SIP username, and then click on the SIP password box to copy and paste this. You do not want to change it. Right, you'll need the realm. Those are the 3 pieces of information you would need to program or provision that third-party application. If, however, you want to use a VirtualPBX soft phone, then down here at the bottom, right, below where it says the configuration guide, it's grayed out here, but it says use third-party application. If you click on this, it flips it. Now it says use VirtualPBX application. Give it a name, and then click on create device. Right, this will disappear. Then click on save changes. When you click on save changes, the user gets an email. It's going to say your VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. It's going to have their login information specific to the soft phone, as well as download links. Right, so they're going to have one login for the soft phone and a separate login for the dashboard, dash.virtualpbx.com. If you add a soft phone on the devices tab on the left, you do not have the option to flip it. Right, it's only adding a third-party soft phone on the devices page. The other device you should add here is the web phone, right? Directly to the user. The web phone uses your Dash user login information to log in at webphone.virtualpbx.net. So you want to have it associated with the user so that information is already good to go. Right, so give it a name. Click on Create Device, and then click on Save Changes. All right, next up, we have user features. A caller ID number. This will only be of work if the user has a phone number assigned to them. All right, you choose one of their phone numbers. And when it's turned on, excuse me, this phone number then becomes their outbound caller ID when they make calls from their VoIP phone instead of the main number. Virtual text. This is a new feature. This may not be here immediately when you sign up. You'll probably need to talk to our account services team. When you click enable, you need to select the phone number on the account. This is either a main number, auto attendant number, or a phone number already assigned to the user. And then you click on Save Changes. They'll get an email welcoming them to virtual text. It's going to have its own login. So now you have up to 3 logins for a user, right? Dash login, dash/web phone login, right? Soft phone login if you added our VirtualPBX soft phone app, and then the virtual text app login. Virtual text, there is an app you can find on the Play Store or App Store. You can also go to virtualtext.app on your browser and log in that way. Just allows you to text your customers from your numbers on your account. The major advantage of virtual text is you can share numbers between your staff members, so that way multiple people can be keeping track of your text communications with your customers. Voicemail box. When you click enable, which typically happens when you create it with the user, transcription, I believe, is still a plan-specific feature, and that just the system listens to the voicemail message and types it out for you in the email notification. It does the best that it can, right? If people are not speaking into the microphone properly or there's a lot of background noise, the quality of that transcription will go down. Now, by default, it will go voicemail to email, and that means it's sending you an attachment, right? So you automatically get an email letting you know the date and time of the call that came in, and there'll be an MP3 attachment so you can listen to the voicemail directly from your email. The voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they are full and cannot accept any more. Now, in this default setup, your staff members have up to 3 ways to listen to their voicemails, right? That email method, right? Because they're getting an MP3 attachment. But they can call in over the phone and listen to their voicemail messages that way. That also has the option for them to delete the messages after they're done listening to them. They can also access their voicemails from the user portal, right? So every user has their own user portal. It defaults them to the voicemail tab. So there they can listen to them directly on their computer. They can download them. They can also delete them. If for some reason if you have staff members who aren't good about, checking their voicemails, or you have like a department voicemail box that no one's primarily responsible for, then you do have the option here to delete the messages after the notification. So after the system sends out that email with the MP3 attachment, it just removes it from the system altogether. So that means the only way to check the voicemails is via email, right? No way to call in, no way to check via the user portal. So if they have problems checking their voice or their email, right? Or if they're not getting all their emails, you might lose voicemails. Follow me. This is for users with multiple devices. Oh, this user doesn't have any devices. Let's go here. We'll go to Aaron because he's got a couple. Right, so here, when you first enable it, they both come up under do not ring checked. Right, you have to tell the device which device or devices you're going to make use of. When you uncheck it, there's a little green bar. You can click and drag it to the right. Now up here, you have timestamps, right? So it defaults to 120 seconds, right? 2 minutes. You can click distribute. So now it equalizes out between these two. You can click and drag and change the order. Click distribute. Right, so now it's ringing the soft phone first, and then you click on Save Changes. Fax box. Users can have their own individual fax boxes if you want them to. you'll have the option to add a spare number or use a spare number, add a new number, right? Buy a new number, or you can add a second extension number. I recommend making use of a phone number because that means this user can then send and receive faxes. If you select an extension number, this user can only ever receive faxes, and you're potentially restricting who can send them a fax, right? So many electronic fax services don't have the ability to add an extension number to who they're sending a fax to. So that's why it's typically best to use a phone number. But after that, again, when they create an email, +1 area code and phone number, and then their account row. Conference Bridge. If you enable Conference Bridge on a user, the next thing you need to do is create a PIN number for them. Right? It just uses their extension number as a conference room number. You do have the option to enable video conferencing, but that's only going to work on your staff members. Right? Anyone outside the system won't be able to make use of the video. Call forwarding. You have off, on, or failover mode. Your staff members can turn the call forwarding off or on their own, either directly from their VoIP phone or from the user portal. Failover mode is something a system admin has to set up. And what that is if their VoIP phone goes offline and you have failover mode enabled, the system will automatically forward the incoming call to the user to that phone number that you designated here under failover call forwarding. You just put +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and then you would click on Save Changes. Customize call recording. When you first enable it, it looks like this. Right, and again, like follow me, it wants to know what kind of calls you want recorded. Right, so inbound internal, that's a coworker call, right? Coworker Bob is calling Aaron. I can choose not to record that. Whereas inbound external, customer Mary is calling Aaron. Right, outbound internal, Aaron calling coworker Bob. Outbound external is Aaron calling customer Mary. Right? Or you can have all four one way or just, disable if you don't want to record at all. Your account includes at least some amount of data storage as part of your monthly plan price. Call recording would then take into that. If you just signed up, check the pricing page to see how much storage is included and what the overages would be. If you have an older plan, you'd want to talk to our account services team. Music on hold. You can choose to have your users have their own hold music. You would just click enable, either find the file already on your computer or on your system, or click upload to upload a file from your device, right? MP3, .wav, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, and then click on Save Changes. Do not disturb. If you turn that on, that means the user is not taking calls, right? Calls to them are going to voicemail. It's going to skip them if they're in queues or in groups. Hot desking. This is a VoIP phone feature designed to be for use like in hybrid scheduling or shared office environment. You put in a hot desk ID, right? Usually 4 digits. So if you're using 4-digit extensions, just make it their extension number. You can choose to include or require a PIN number. That's optional. So then what happens is Aaron comes into the office on Tuesday. He sits down at desk number 2. He picks up the VoIP phone. He hits *11. That turns on hot desking at that phone. It will ask him for his hot desk ID and PIN number if you required it, and then tell him that calls will now be sent to this device. Right? So for the rest of his workday, any call that's going to his user going to ring him at the phone he's sitting at. End of his day, he picks up the phone, hits *12. That turns off hot desking on that phone. Next time he comes in the office, let's say that's Thursday, Angela's sitting at desk number 2. He says, good morning. He sits down at desk number 5. Same thing, picks up the handset, *11, hot desk ID. Now calls are coming to him there. All right, let's skip up over here to groups. So groups are departments, right? So you have a group of staff members handling similar kinds of calls. Up here at the top, you click Add Group. You give it a name. You give it an extension number. Right? Then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group, and then you click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on the name, right? So you can always change the name. And then here you have group call attempts. You have little arrows here to the right, so you can increase or decrease that amount. And this is how many times the system is going to offer calls to the members of the group. Right? So if they don't answer on the first attempt, in this case, they get a second attempt where they may get a chance to be picked up. You can always delete a group, or you just click on Save Changes. Next up, we have the members box. When you click on it, this shows your staff members that are assigned to this group and how they are being rung. So this particular setup is referred to as ring all or blast ringing, right? So it's ringing everybody for the same amount of time. Now, for people who are getting calls from a group, it's going to ring all of their devices, right? So there's that user feature, follow me. Calls from the group ignore that feature completely, right? So any user with multiple phones, they're going to have multiple phones ring when they're offered a call from the group. Now, up here at the top, you have timestamps, right? So you can change the duration, the length. You also have the distribute button. So just like the follow me, right? I can change it. So now it's ringing in this order. Now it's going to ring in this order every time for every call, right? So first the call comes in, rings Bob, right? If Bob picks up, that's great, wonderful. If a second call comes in while Bob is on the phone, the group is not going to skip him. So it's going to still offer the call to him, right? So if he has call waiting on his phone, he's going to hear a beep. Right? If he disables that, then he won't hear it. So probably be less annoyed. But after 20 some odd seconds, then that caller is offered to the next person in the group, right? So that's Aaron, I believe. Yeah. So then Aaron can pick up. So Bob and Aaron both on calls, right? A third call comes in, right? Offers it to Bob, offers it to Aaron. So after 48 seconds, then it gets to the third person, right? So that's why you might want more of a blast ringing setup. However, these are sliders, right? So you can click and drag these bars to have more coverage, right? And customize it a bit. Down here on the bottom left, right, you can click add user, so you can add additional staff members to your group. Because let's say you're busy, click distribute. If I want to change the order, say Bob's got a big project. Oh, we can do something like that, right? But then I can click distribute. So now Bob's at the end, right? If I need to remove someone, I just click remove. Now in this case, you don't want this gap at the front, right? So I need to click distribute again. Likewise, if you have someone on do not disturb, you don't want that gap there necessarily either. Any changes you make, click on save changes. Groups have extension numbers. They can have multiple if you want them to. Just click on add extension. Groups can have their own phone numbers, right? You can buy new or add from spare, so they can have multiple numbers. Got the gear icon here, so you can set up the caller ID or E911 or PPEN. And then we have group features. First up is ringback. So call gets offered to the group, right? Call comes in, offered to your staff members. Their phones ring. That ring sound gets piped back to the inbound caller. Ring back. If you don't want that ringing sound to be sent to your caller, you can instead enable the ringback feature, upload your own media file, right? .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, or choose one that's already on the system, and then click on Save Changes. So this will play instead of that ringing sound. Next action, to me, the most important feature. When you click Enable, it's if no one picks up the call, what do you want to do with it? Right? Where are you sending the call? If no one picks up, you'll pull down here. Typically, probably going to voicemail, but you can send it to another group. You can send it back to your virtual receptionist. You can send it to a call queue. You can send it to a user or specific phone. Allow call forward. If you enable this, that means your users can make use of call forwarding on their VoIP phones, right? Or actually from any phone technically, right? So they're not at their normal phone. They're going to forward calls to their cell phone. Now, if you have many staff members already having their cell phones as devices on their users, you don't need to have this feature enabled. Caller ID prepend. If you enable it, this allows you to put text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones, right? So if they're in multiple groups, it's a way to let them know, oh, you're getting a call about this from this group versus a different group. All right, let's go to devices. So this is your device tab. Shows all your devices on the account. Red device means it's unregistered, right? So we're probably not going to be able to send calls to it. Black device up here, that means you've turned it off under the enable column. A green device means we can send a call to it. Up here at the top, you can add devices, right? SIP phone, cell phone, landline, soft phone, etc. Some things to keep in mind is, go to a soft phone here. If you click on the wrench icon, right, you can always see the credentials that you need. Audio for soft phones, for non-VirtualPBX soft phones, you can use the Opus codec, but you would probably also want to use the G711A and the G711U. Emergency caller ID, so you can select the default or you can select a specific phone number, so that way you can have the correct address for this device or user. For physical phones, we'll go down here. Under the audio, you definitely want the G711A and G711A and G711U, right? And again, you still have that option for E911. The VirtualPBX soft phone should have Opus, which I believe it does by default. Greetings tab shows all the media files on your account, right? So main greetings, voicemail greetings, hold music files. It has the name, the source, right? So TTS, text to speech. Upload means you uploaded the file. Recording means you recorded it over the phone. This playback column, you click on the little icon, it should play back the file right in your browser, so you can see if it's still relevant to your needs. If for some reason it doesn't play back, under download, click on the icon. You can download the file to your computer. Little wrench icon here. This allows you to click on the file, so you can change the name, right, or delete if it's no longer relevant. Numbers tab defaults to your numbers in use. This just shows you where the numbers are assigned. You can't unassign or assign numbers here. You can adjust the gear icon for the caller ID, E911, or prepend. Spare numbers, these are the numbers you're not using right now. So if you wanted to remove a number from account, you first need to unassign it, so it becomes spare number. Then you would come here and click on the little box in front of the number. Actually, hold on. Get rid of these. So once you've done that, up here at the top, you have the option here to delete now. You confirm the deletion. Click continue, and now I've removed those numbers from my account. So I'm likely saving some money on my monthly bill. Right, by numbers, local and toll free, right? So you would add more new spare numbers. port starts the porting process. That means you're moving a number from one carrier to another, right? So from Comcast to VirtualPBX, click on new port request. You would give it a name, choose local or toll free, and then you need to upload a copy of your bill in PDF. Basically, you just follow the on-screen instructions. It wants to the address associated with it, the phone numbers that you're porting, the BTN, which is a billing telephone number. So if you're only porting one number, that's the BTN, right? If you're porting multiple, you'd want to check with your current carrier. Some carriers require a PIN number to port out. It's an account level PIN. You typically do need to get that from your carrier. Some of them have it printed right on their invoices, others don't. Then you would need to fill out and sign an LOA or letter of agency and upload that to the system. It also has an option to download a blank one, so if you don't have it already. The LOA should match the information that your current carrier has on file, right? So the company name, the address. It does need a signature, right? So don't type your name in twice or print it twice. It does need an actual either manual signature or digital signature file. Ports take time, right? So a toll-free port takes about a week, right? 3 to 5 business days. Local numbers can range anywhere from a business day to 3 weeks is a typical range. If there's a problem, we double check to make sure there's no typos, or if there's alternate information like 2 different addresses, we'll try them both. But after that, we would communicate the reason why it got rejected and basically double check with the current carrier to find out what it should be. All right, voicemail boxes. So this shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. You can create your own up here at the top, right? That would be like for your groups, right? Or departments versus, a particular person's icon or voicemail. Any voicemail box that has an entry here in this column means it was created with the user. Once you've created a voicemail box, so up here, you give it a name, voicemail box number, and a PIN number. Then you would click on Create Voicemail Box. Then under Advanced Reading Media, you can pick a file under the media file, right? From the pull down or upload your own, right? If you have the basic information, right, you can call in and record over the phone. The temporary file, this is for your vacation or out of office message, right? So if you have something selected here, it's going to play, right? It's going to supersede the media file until you take the temporary back to none. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes have a built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. You can add additional recipients here. Just put in the email address and keep clicking add until you're done adding email addresses, and then click on save changes. For any voicemail boxes you create on this page, you do want to add at least one voicemail or one email address here. Then you have options. So once you've added a recipient and a media file, then you can click on the box here for already set up. And the other things you would want to check on here is make sure you have the attached email option, and then optional if you want to delete after the notification. Call logs shows your call history on the account. You can choose from today, this week, right, this month, or custom. Little green arrow to the right, that's a call that came into the system. And you can see here it was offered to this device. And let's see if your yellow arrow to the left, that's an outbound call. You see where it went to. Little fire hydrant icon, this will report the call. Basically, it creates an email for you, pre-addressed to support@virtualpbx.com. It's going to have the technical details of the call. You're going to want to type in the body of that email to let us know why you're sending it in. Custom, you can select the date range. This will let you go back up to 1 year. Right, you can always download the files. It's a CSV, so if you're good with spreadsheets, you'll get a lot more information out of this. If you need to go back further, our engineers can go back up to 18 months, but after that, the data is lost. So If you need your call log data for compliance reasons, I would suggest doing this every month and just downloading the files. Feature codes, I've talked about a couple of these, but these are ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from the VoIP phone. This is a document on our support pages. There's also a document called the Phone Commands Cheat Sheet, which has the feature codes, but also has the context of how to make use of them. And that is the dashboard. So we'll go over here to Blacklist. Blacklist is an included feature. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your system. So you would go here and click Edit Blacklist. If you don't have a list, you would click Add. Right? So then you give it a name. You choose, are you blocking anonymous calls or not? Right? So if you turn it on, that means you're blocking them. Right? So that means if a call comes in that does not have valid inbound caller ID, we block it and they get busy tone. Or if you leave it off, that means they come through. Beyond that, you click here where it says add number, put +1 area code and phone number, no dashes, parentheses, or spaces, and keep clicking add until you're done adding numbers. Once you're done, you click on save. Then you would go back to settings, and then you make sure your list is over here under the right, under selected. Right? So in worst case, you click and drag, and then click update. So now any phone number that are on these lists, when they try to call in, they get busy tone. Faxes, this goes to your fax manager. It's an included feature. This lets you get to any fax box on the account. So you can see the inbound faxes, the date, the time, the phone numbers involved. You can download the file. You can choose to remove it if you have a lot of data. Outbound faxes, you can get to any of your fax boxes to see their outbound status. You can see the date, the time, phone numbers involved. If it's failed, that means we had a problem communicating with the other phone number. It could be a busy tone. It could be we had an initial connection and then something interrupted the transmission. Sometimes over here at the far right icon, this might give you more information, but mostly it just tells you failed. Every now and then you'll see something like user busy, but not with any regularity. The email to fax logs tab, this shows you where the system had problems processing the request. Right, so we didn't actually try the other phone number yet. All right, little thumbs down. You can see the email addresses involved, the format that they sent the file or the to field of the email. All right, the date, the time. Click on the little eyeball icon, and you'll see the reason. In this case, no valid attachments. Typically means no attachments, but it could be that there was no PDF or TIFF, period. Right, in other cases, right, you'll say, hey, this email address isn't a user on the account. That's typically someone used their personal email address versus their work email. Number Manager takes you to your spare number page. Reports, this actually is the advanced reporting feature, which is a plan specific. This allows you to create your own reports. Unfortunately, it doesn't show up here under the streaming software, but if you go to our YouTube channel, look for the advanced reporting demo, and that will show you some of the things you can do with this. If you're interested, you'd also want to talk to our account services team so they can see if it's available on your plan or if you need to change plans. The voicemail manager lets you get to any voicemail box on the account so you can manage them if necessary, right? So you can see their voicemail messages, whether they're new or not. If you click on the box in front of them as a system admin, you can move it to a different voicemail box if you're so inclined, or change its status. You can play it back, you can download it, you see the date and time, etc. SMS registration, this is if you're going to make use of texting. You do need to go through this process of filling out the information, and then you can see the status of your the registration. The call center opens up a new tab, takes you to callcenter.virtualpbx.com. This is if you're making use of ACD queues. Unfortunately, because it opens a new tab, it doesn't work well with the streaming software. So under our YouTube channel, you want to look for the video for the ACD Queues Pro demo. But basically, queues have advanced routing options, so you can do things like round robin, which will equalize out our time, or most idle, right? Whoever's been waiting the longest gets the next call. Queues allow your users to log in and out of the queue, so they can control when they're getting calls. They can also mark themselves away, so like when they go to lunch, they can mark away, so they're not offered calls. And unlike groups, if they're on a call, the system doesn't wait for them. It just skips to the next available user, right? So that way your inbound caller isn't waiting on hold for as long. Queues are also an upgrade off of existing plans. So it's possible you might have to change plans in order to get queues. And then there's an upgrade on a per queue basis. You'd want to talk to our account services team about that. Excuse me. Dynamic caller ID. This is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID of your VoIP phones. Click on the little wrench icon here, or you click on New Rule. You give it a name. You choose a phone number on your account, and then you choose the parameters. In this case, I say use this caller ID whenever my staff members dial a 408 area code phone number. Right, so it'll automatically change their outbound caller ID for them whenever they dial a phone number in the 408 area code. The other option here is I made a feature code. So now my staff members, if they dial *550, then the area code and phone number they're calling out to, the system will change the outbound caller ID to this 323 phone number. All right, so a little bit more work for my staff members. But basically, these are just ways to change the outbound caller ID to make it look like you're a local call to whoever you're calling to. Monitor is another plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff members, whether they're on a call or not. You can go by all, who's available, who's busy. You can specify by device. If there's an active inbound call, they'd each have a box, so you can see who they're speaking to. And for parked calls, if there's a parked call, you would see the parking spot number. The recording manager, this will open up a new tab. It takes you to recordings.virtualpbx.com, which just needs your dash login to log in. So then you can see your call recordings there. If you're making use of AWS storage for your call recording storage needs, then this would show the interface there. Webhooks, this is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to link your Dash account to other software. It's programming. So like in general, if you're having problems with this, we have to escalate it up to our engineering team. You can go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see sample code of what we've done in terms of linking Dash to other software. Also, on our YouTube channel, there is a webinar, an introduction to Zapier. And that also talks about webhooks because that's how we typically link to Zapier as well. And then lastly, the user portal. So every user has their own user portal. It defaults them to their voicemail tab. So this is where your staff could listen to their voicemails. They can download them. They can also change the status. Call history tab, they can see their call history. They can adjust the date range. So they can go back further if they wanted to and see their history. The fax tab only works for users that have their own fax box, so they can see their fax history. Contact list, this is everything within your Dash account, so that way your staff can more easily transfer calls if necessary. This is not something they can edit themselves. The conference tab, over here on the right, this is where your staff members adjust their conference room PIN numbers, right? For themselves as a moderator, as well as for their participants. They have the option here to have people join deafened and muted, as well as to play entry and exit tones, right? And you click save. Once they're in a conference up here, the plus icon invites another Dash user to the conference. Lock a conference means no one else can join. You can mute everybody, unmute everybody, and the conference call. Also, while in a call, every moderator and participant has their own little box, and that means the moderators can mute a specific person or even kick out a specific person. And settings and devices. This is where your staff members can enable call forwarding themselves. Right here, they just click on the little box. They need to put +1 area code and phone numbers, no spaces, dashes, or parentheses, and they click on save. And that is everything. Not seeing any questions have come up, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I thank you for your time today. And again, we'll be back next Tuesday at 10.